Welcome to Season 6 of the Funding Love Adoption Podcast with Mal and Kate. We are two adoptive moms that seek to love, support, and elevate all corners of the adoption triad through honest conversation and interviews. This season, we will be discussing everything from our fundraising gala and Christian faith to our Funding Love alumni testimonies and our own silly friendship. The goal of the Funding Love Adoption Podcast is to help educate and equip you in your own journey of adoption and inspire you to join us in our mission of supporting families and birth moms post-adoption. So pour your favorite beverage and pull up a chair because everyone has a seat at our table. Together, we are Funding Love. Hello and welcome back to Season 6 of the Funding Love Adoption Podcast with Mal and Kate. We are here for Episode 7 and we have such a fun guest with us today. She is someone that is near and dear to us and to Funding Love. Her name is Jen Wilhorn and she lives in central Wisconsin with her husband Brian and her 4 kids. 2 of her kids joined her family through birth and then she has 2 that joined through adoption. She has a passion for travel, especially traveling with her family, making new memories and strengthening bonds. Jen took her passion for travel and turned it into a job as a travel advisor with the wonderful Travelmation. And she also works in education administration. And we're so grateful that Jen applied to be a magic maker for us a few years back because we were so blessed by her serving and being a part of our organization as a magic maker. So welcome, Jen.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, I'm going to welcome you as well. We are so excited about this conversation today. But before we jump into that, Mal gave a little bit of intro, kind of like an overview of you. But I would love if you kind of gave us even more of a little bit of an intro of who you are and your family, just so our listeners and our viewers can get a real good idea and learn more about you. So tell us about your 4 kids, ages, names, all of the things we want to know about them.
Sure. So we have 4 kids, 3 of them now. I have a hard time calling kids because they're actually young adults.
Yeah.
So our oldest is 26, and she's in California, going to law school at USC. And then we have a 23-year-old son, and he is in the Wisconsin area and works and goes to college as well. And then Abias is our 3rd, and he lives in Madison, Wisconsin, also working and going to school. And then our youngest is Lily, and she is 12, and she's still at home with us. So they keep us on our toes.
Yeah, that is such a different season of life. And I'm sure we could have a whole nother conversation about the last, 8 to 10 years of your life as all of these kids are transitioning out of your home and into their own lives. That's like a whole other conversation about emotions and all the things. But we're gonna get into that because that's what this episode is about too, about parenting teen and young adult adoptees. But tell us before we move on about your hubby. We love a good love story. So how long have y'all been married? Where'd y'all meet? Are you both from Wisconsin? Tell us about Brian.
So crazily enough, we were high school sweethearts.
Oh,
we
love
met.
that.
I was 14 years old, which is crazy. Our first date was going to high school homecoming. And then we ended up in the same college and ended up getting married. We actually just celebrated our 29th wedding anniversary on Sunday, which is
congratulations.
just absolutely crazy that we've been together that long. But he is amazing. He is everything that I need.
Oh, I love that. 14. That is a long time. So you started dating, what, freshman, sophomore? Were you dating since then?
Yes. We, we had a little bumps in the road, but ended up getting married when we were, fairly young, according to these days standards. So,
Yeah. So when you first started dating, I'm sure it wasn't called dating. What was it called? Going out or go and study or something
going
like
out.
that?
We were going out.
Yeah. I love that. Y'all been going out for a long time now.
Long time.
29 years. Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So I would love if you could share the story about how you found Funding Love and how, what led you to want to reach out and apply to be a magic maker. I feel like a lot of these days, our world, our people that are doing stuff with Funding Love with us have found us through Travelmation, but I'm curious if that was your route or if you just tell us how you found it and what led you to want to be a part of what we're doing.
Yeah, so crazily enough, when I did my Travelmation onboarding interview, it was with Michelle Bork,
Mm.
and she asked me how I kind of got connected with Disney. And so I was telling her that when we adopted our son Abias, that we wanted to do some sort of celebration trip because we've always loved to travel. But we wanted to be super conscious of where we took Abias because we didn't want it to be somewhere that our birth children had been to before. We wanted it to be a new experience for our whole family.
Mm.
And so we had never done a Disney cruise, and so that was like our adoption celebration trip was a Disney cruise, and we all fell in love with it, and that was kind of the beginning of our story with Disney.
Mm.
I sailed Disney many times before I even stepped foot in the parks.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
that was kind of became our thing, and so as I was doing this interview with Michelle, she told me about Funding Love during that interview, and so then I kind of started following Funding Love, from that point because it was similar to our story in that it was about
Mhm.
creating memories and creating bonds for our family, and I was so excited to see that happening for other families too.
I love that. So I need the tea on, like, what ship was it that you sailed on for the first ever?
Okay. So this is crazy. We sailed the Disney Magic, and we're pretty sure that we were the last ever to do the kids sail free.
Oh,
Oh.
wow.
They had that promotion, and so crazily enough, we only had to pay for my husband and I to sail. All 3 of the kids,
Wow.
sailed free. And I always joke that Disney has, many times over made their money back on
Yeah.
us
Oh, for
because
sure.
they hooked us with that kids sail free.
That's so funny that that was your intro and your love for Disney through the ships,
Mhm.
not through, like, the parks and all of that. I guess there's people who love Disney Cruise more than the parks. I could see how. But it's funny now because I guess it's just triggered in my brain. Now I'm going on a tangent, something totally off course here. But now they're making the new Disney ships they have odes to the parks, right? Like, so
Mhm.
some of the bars and theming and all of that is Disney park specific. So I don't think it was that way back when it was just the magic. It was just kind of
Right.
the Disney as a whole, mini Mickey the classic kind of thing. So, anyways, now it's kind of come full circle with the parks are influencing the cruise ships. So
Yeah.
that's totally off topic, but
I love that.
we're all Disney people. I guess that's fun to talk about. Yeah. So tell us, okay, let's dive into adoption now. Tell us your story of adoption. Like, even the very beginning, like, what was the first heart pull, the heart tug where you're like, this is where I feel like I need to go. My husband, I need to go. When was this and how did that happen?
Sure. So, my husband and I both are in the education field, and I can tell you very specifically. I was serving at a school that was a pretty high needs school,
Hmm.
and there was a Friday afternoon where I was leaving the office, and there was a little boy sitting in the office, and he was at that time I was a reading interventionist, so I was working with kids had a hard time learning how to read. And he was one of my students, and so I stopped to talk to him. "Oh, hey, what are you doing here on a Friday afternoon?" And the principal pulled me in and, mentioned that he was being removed from his home and that they were waiting for the social worker to come and pick him up and that they didn't know, where he was going to go.
Mm.
And, that, like, shook me to my core. And so I went home that night and talked to Brian, and we really talked and prayed about it over the weekend and went back to school the next week and told our school staff that worked with the social workers that we were willing to become a family for him if he needed a placement. And that's a whole nother long, long story. And it ended up that we weren't the right fit for him, and he was placed with another family. It took about 18 months for that to end. And then we had to decide, were we entering this for this particular boy, or were we open to a bigger plan? And I'll be honest, that was really a hard decision because we had kind of entered thinking that we could be a resource for this particular little kiddo. Um, but we talked about it as a family, and at that time, gosh, I've gotta think, Meg was probably 12 and Ethan was 9. So they
Mhm.
were a little bit older, and
Yeah.
we really thought our family was complete.
Yeah.
But in talking with them, we decided as a family that we were open, to something more. And so at that point, we started, accepting, to look at different applications and files, of other kids. And, it took a little while, but then we were matched with a bias, and
Mm.
then that's a whole 'nother story. But that's
Yeah.
how that's how God really put it on our heart, was
Mm.
through this little boy at school.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well,
That's crazy how that's just kind of the little entry point he had for you to take the bigger leap and to open your hearts and maybe even prepare you for what was coming, 'cause
Mm.
yeah. Um, so a bias, how old was the bias when he came to your family?
So by the time that he came to our family, he was 9. So
Okay.
Ethan and Abias are 10 months apart,
Oh, wow.
which is, now we've learned that they kind of call that virtual twinning, which is not
Oh,
highly
no.
recommended in the adoption world. But that was what we chose to do, and it wasn't without challenges to have,
Sure.
2 kids within 10 months of each other.
Yeah.
But Abias was 9 when he joined us through foster care, and then he was 10 when his adoption was finalized.
Got
Okay.
it. Okay. And Lily was she international adoption?
She was
Okay.
international. Yep.
Okay.
So, again, we really felt like our family was complete when we had Meg, Ethan, and Abias. And, I don't know if you're familiar with, Show Hope, Stephen Curtis
Uh,
Chapman. He's a
Mm.
Christian artist.
yes.
So his organization ran Maria's Big House of Hope, which was named after his daughter who had
Mhm.
passed away tragically.
Mhm.
And while I'm really a very impatient person, not patient at all. So while we were waiting, through like the foster process, we thought, well, if we're waiting, at least maybe we can help other people. And so we became sponsors for Show Hope and kind of really threw ourselves into that organization. And they had a sponsor trip to Maria's Big House of Hope in China. By this time, Meg was I think she was a freshman in high school.
Mhm.
And so she and I went to China to visit Maria's Big House of Hope, and that really, put international adoption on our hearts, which again was not. I really thought we would adopt from foster care again. That was
Mm.
Yeah.
what I thought would
Yeah.
happen. But by the time we were coming to the end of our time there, I called Brian from Beijing, and he's like, "You don't even have to say it. Just what do we need to start
Right.
doing?" I knew. And so that's when we started the process for international adoption,
Mhm.
for Lily.
Oh my
Well,
goodness. My husband wouldn't even let me go on a trip like that because I feel like he knew he wouldn't even pick up my calls, I don't think. If I called him from Beijing, I think he would ignore them. Nope. Nope.
Yeah.
Not because he's heartless, just because we have 2 little ones, and I think his mind's crazy right now.
So how long was that process of bringing her home from the time you were like, "Okay, let's decide we're gonna start this process," to bringing her home?
That it was actually very fast. I
Okay.
wanna say it was right around 5 months,
Oh, wow.
which in
Wow.
the international world of
Yes.
adoption that's very, very fast.
So were you already, like, home study approved for international adoptions?
No,
So you
no.
had to go home and do all of that, and then okay, had you met Lily while you were there or no?
We had, but,
Okay.
that's also very frowned upon, that
Okay.
we would have met her, and so that again was a family discussion about how, like, you can't really, like, fill out information about a specific child, so we
Mm.
had to know that we were open,
Mhm.
to any child, but then we ultimately ended up being matched with her, which was a miracle in and of itself.
Oh, that is
So,
amazing.
yeah.
That is amazing. Oh, such 2 different stories, 2 different paths that you did not anticipate when you jumped into this or when your heart was initially tugged, which is always the case, which is
Mhm.
always the stories. It's just how God works. It's not like, "Oh, you're gonna start pretty bow package there." No, it's none of that, none of
No.
that. So,
No.
well, thank you for sharing that story, because I think that will encourage so many people who are on that journey. Um But what we really want to chat about today, honestly, is um, you are in a different point in your, let's just even say parenting journey, but parenting adoptees journey than Mal and I are. I mean, I have a 5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, so totally different season of parenting an adoptee. So we want to talk about the challenges and blessings, I would say, that arise in raising, parenting an adoptee who is in that teenage, young adult phase of their life. Because we know there are so many changes just for kids anyways, as they develop and grow and find their identity as a human. But to add that layer of adoption, we know is always, um, let's just call that an added layer.
Mhm.
It's not good, not bad. I think it just adds maybe another challenge or another layer to go through. So, walk us through, I guess, some of the challenges. Let's just dive right in of some of the challenges that you've come up against in this season. Yeah. So let's see what you know.
Sure. So, a couple of things that I wanted to start with is first of all, I talked with both Abias and Lily because I wanted to be sure that they were comfortable with me sharing their
Hmm.
stories. Because
Mhm.
as they get older, that's really important to me that it's their story,
Hmm.
and to make sure that they're comfortable with that. And then we always talk in our family. We talk a lot about the power of a single story, but also the danger of a single story. And so I think Abias and Lily have a lot of power in their stories, but I also know that those are just a single story. Like their story is theirs. It doesn't speak on behalf of all children adopted from foster care or through
Mm.
international adoption. Theirs are unique to them.
Yeah.
Um, and theirs are the only stories that I know well. So
Yeah.
just some of the things that we've worked with them on is, first of all, we've tried really hard in our family to be open in our communication,
Mhm.
both with our birth children and with our children who joined us through adoption, because especially as they enter into those teen years and into the young adult years, there's a lot of secrets that can be kept, and so
Yeah.
we've really tried to keep those lines of communication open, and then also open within our family in so that Abias and Lily can feel comfortable talking about things that are hard for them. And one of the things that's hard is just as they really um, start to form their identity as they get older of who they are, what's important to them, what's a priority for them. We've talked a lot about how their early years impact that long term. And so for Abias, joining our family at the age of 9, he actually had been in foster care for about 5 to 6 years at that point.
Mm.
So he has a journey through foster care and a journey of being in different foster families during that time that really had impacted him and his sense of who he is.
Mm.
Because he had to fit in
Mhm.
each family that he joined, um, he has had a hard time, like, really knowing who he is and being okay with that,
Mhm.
Mm.
and not having to be sometimes we call it a chameleon, feeling like
Mhm.
that he has to change either for our family or for friendships or relationships because, to be honest, though that was a skill that really served him well
Mhm.
in foster homes, and also, to be honest, it's a skill that serves you well sometimes when you're in high school to
Yeah.
be able to, adapt to different groups and to be able to kinda be the one that everybody loves and wants to be around because you're fun, but you don't take a stand on anything. And so that has been, I think, a challenge for him has as he's turned into, I would say, a young adult. Like, where do I take a stand? Like, who am I that I'm going to hold on to and not change in different social settings? So
Mhm.
that's been a challenge for him, I would say. And then also for both of them, just those feelings of abandonment.
Mm.
So, Abias's story goes through foster care and lands with us, but Lily's being, an international adoption, she was abandoned by her birth parents. We know nothing about her birth parents at all. Um, But then she was at an orphanage where she was really loved and cared for by the nannies. And so actually her journey took her through a grieving process, for her nannies. Those were
Mhm.
That's who she was really connected with, was those
Mhm.
nannies at the orphanage. And so, whereas Abias's story takes him through how to attach to a family,
Mhm.
um, and two parents and siblings and all of those things that are gonna be there forever. Lily's, really her journey was not even really knowing what a family unit looked like,
Mm.
Mhm.
because her only memories are of an orphanage with other children and nannies who come and go on different shifts.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So those feelings of abandonment and how that impacts how they handle relationships, and that's something that we're working on, all the time with both of them. Just that
Mhm.
idea that people people aren't gonna leave, that they're
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
And yeah,
now
go ahead.
let me ask this question, and you don't have to answer, please. You know, if it's uncomfortable. Like, how does these um, conversations present themselves? How do these realizations of that Lily maybe is struggling with this
Mhm.
feeling of abandonment or whatever it is? How does that present itself? Where you can say, okay, we're gonna have a conversation, or does she come to you, or what? How do you notice?
So, that's a great question. So just like birth children, adoptive children have different personalities.
Mm,
A bias is way willing to talk about those things with us, and Lily is a closed door.
yeah.
Mhm.
So, with Lily, we have to really kind of, maybe push those conversations a little bit more when we feel like they're appropriate. Whereas with a bias, he's more than willing, to talk about them.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
and it's always a balance too, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Because, while that's an important part of their story, I mean, we all have hard parts of our stories, and we don't want to talk about them every day.
Mhm.
So, trying to tread lightly and know when is the right time, and balance that with just being a kid who is enjoying the different stages of life too.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, and you know, it's like with anything, for a child or a friendship or a relationship, it's consistency, it's over time, it's proving that trust. It's that could be, I guess, for an adoptee who may struggle with that feeling of abandonment, may take longer over time than a child who maybe hasn't, you know? So yeah, that consistency, that stability, what you're providing. So maybe sometimes I'm just paraphrasing, I'm guessing, I'm just, thinking a hug, um, and I love you, we got you, we're with you, and let them then process, but to say, "Hey, just don't forget whatever you're dealing with, I'm here, I love you."
Yep.
Those things for a child like Lily or any like a child who's more quiet, reserved, may be all that it needs to be other than
Mhm.
digging because, for me, I gotta find out. So that's gonna be a thing for me. Patience. I gotta find
Yeah.
out. What is it? Tell me.
Yeah.
You don't seem like yourself. We're talking, I can't do
Yeah. Right.
that.
Yes.
Um,
And I think that really has, started. It's hard, with a bias being 22, he has just a fantastic girlfriend that we all love, and she's amazing. But seeing as they kind of walk towards a more serious relationship,
yeah.
how those feelings of insecurity and abandonment affect his ability to be a part of a relationship,
Mm,
um, that's hard. Those
yeah.
feelings don't just go away as you
Mhm.
get older. Those are always, kind of there. And so, supporting them too as they continue to grow together as a couple, and encouraging them to get the support that they need. Um, that's been a big part of it as well.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. It goes beyond just parent-child relationship or sibling. It's into the other, meaningful relationships in your life, friendships, and
Mhm.
yeah. So
Yep.
have they, in as they've grown and entered this young adulthood, has there been an increased in curiosity about birth family? Have there been increased questions? How has that been something that has felt different in this phase than it has maybe when they were younger?
Mm.
I would say, with Lily's story being international, that's really it's so unknown, and of course, we have always told her. I mean, there's many stories about international adoptees being able to find, their birth parents, and we've told her, that we're more than willing to pursue that with her. She's not interested in that at all.
Okay.
Okay.
A bias does have somewhat of a relationship with his birth mom,
Mhm.
only, through like texting and things like that. And same thing we have told him, we support him, meeting her when he is comfortable. That just hasn't been something that he's been willing or wanting to pursue yet. Um, but that is also hard too when they, are turned to an adult, because then that really rests with them.
Mm.
That's his decision. That's not a decision that I make, or
Right.
we make. That's his decision.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, Now let's talk about like cultural needs.
Yeah.
Being in central Wisconsin and then having children, especially Lily coming internationally, has that played a part in this season?
It has played a huge part, I would say, for both of them.
Okay.
So Abias is Black. He comes from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which,
Mhm.
although it's only 3 hours from where we live, it might as well be longer than that. It's an urban area where we're
Okay.
in a very small town. Um, and so that's been a big thing for both of them, especially as they entered those teen years. And appearance is really important,
Yeah.
and wanting to, stay true to their cultural identity, but also knowing that where they live doesn't always understand or appreciate some of
Mm.
those pieces.
Mhm.
So for a big thing for Abias, was his hair. He loves his hair, and he always wants his hair to look good. Well, we realized pretty quickly that we didn't have the resources in central Wisconsin, for that. So he and Brian would kind of make it, a guy's trip, and they would drive to Madison, which is a little closer than Milwaukee, and they found a barber shop that
Oh, so cute.
was, a good fit. And so he became a regular at the barber shop so that his hair needs, could get met. Lily, ironically, our oldest daughter, Meg, has a wonderful, wonderful friend who is also adopted from China,
Mm.
as
Okay.
is her younger sister. And so, Ryan and Taylor have been amazingly incredible mentors to Lily.
Oh, I love
So,
that.
with hair care, because who knew? There was some different needs there, with hair care. Skin care is a little bit different. And then also just with questions, about eyelashes and, some of those things, that questions that I didn't know how to answer well. And so Ryan and Taylor have become the person that Lily, she FaceTimes them all the time and asks them
Oh.
questions. But I can tell you, when Lily was first home, we went to a local baseball game, and Ryan and Taylor were talking about their nannies. And I will never forget, Lily turned and she looked at them and said, "You had an IE too?" Which is the
Aw.
Chinese word for the
Yeah.
Mandarin word for nanny. And her eyes were huge, and from there on, that sealed the deal that, like,
Oh,
those 2 were her people, that they
Wow.
understood.
Wow. I
So
love that.
having those mentors for Lily has been huge in that cultural area. I wish we would have had more support for that for Abias.
Mm.
yeah.
But we didn't, and, we tried to do the best that we can, but, we know that we fell short.
Mm.
Mm.
Mm. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, those are things that as where you are with the resources you have, with what you know, you do the best you can for your child.
Yeah.
And I think your husband taking him to a barber shop is showing so much love for
Yeah.
that different culture than what you're used to, what you have been accustomed to as a white person.
Mhm.
That's huge. And hair is so important to that culture in so many ways.
Mhm.
So I love that is so cute.
And I
Um,
I love that it just, also speaks to anybody listening to this, anybody that's new to Funding Love, again, like, how important that community
mhm,
aspect is that we believe in so strongly at Funding Love. Like,
yeah.
adoptees need community, adoptive parents need community and support, and we know birth parents do too. So it's so crucial. Adoption doesn't end at finalization. Like, it is
No.
a lifetime, as you can see, just like through parenting, even now, an adult.
Yeah.
It's still a lifetime
Yeah, it is.
journey. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and I think that, I wanna talk about moving into, like, the blessings of this season, like, of raising kids in this season. Because Mal, let's just talk about in general, Mal is now has teenagers, multiple teenagers in her home, which I'm nowhere near it. So I know Mal is you've said, Mallory, that you love this teenage season. It is
Mhm.
something that is, like, exciting you, but so, Jen, I would love for you to speak about it as a blessing, but from the adoptee's point of view.
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, parenting teens is not for the faint of heart at all. I mean, parenting teens is hard. There's just so many emotions and
Mm,
Mhm.
so many they don't know who they are some
mhm,
days, let alone, who they need you to be. Um, but some of the things that we have just really been able to enjoy is, of course, you share celebrations and milestones with all kids. I mean, absolutely. But there is something special about celebrating those pieces for a child that that those milestones and celebrations did not come easy for.
mm,
And it just makes it maybe just a little more special because their story. You know how hard they had to work.
mhm,
um, I can speak for a bias. School did not come easy for him. Education did not come easy for him. He went to many, many different schools before he joined our family, and it's hard to have a consistent education when you hop from school to
Mhm.
school. And obviously, now you just joined a family of educators,
mhm,
and that was an area where he always felt like he wanted to do more,
mm,
and that was hard for him. And, certainly we got him support along the way, but I mean, it was a challenge. School was a challenge. And finally now, he is at a technical school and he is just blossoming. It's like all of those things that he's been working for so hard. And he's so proud to put in our family group chat, like, hey, I got an A in this class, or this is my
that's
GPA
awesome.
semester. So, for me, remembering this little boy who was sitting at the kitchen table struggling with math facts, for him to be so proud of those accomplishments, that's a blessing.
Yeah,
Um,
Mhm.
that's a huge blessing. Or, to see Lily start to be able to form her identity a little bit more. Like I said, she's a pretty closed book. And so we actually, she, Brian, and I did a Disney cruise of all things over spring break. And we were sitting at a table at supper. You know how they match you up with, sometimes with other families.
yeah,
And it was with another girl that was her age. And I could see right away in Lily's face, like, oh boy, I'm not comfortable. And this other girl was so sweet, and she's like, "Hey, do you wanna put my phone number in your phone, and then we can
aw,
connect after supper?" And I could see all the things going across Lily's face, like, "Is this okay? Do I wanna be this girl's friend? Can I do this?" And, all of a sudden, she whispered to me, "Is it okay if I go and get my phone?" And, she came back to the supper table, and they exchanged
aw,
numbers, and over the course of the cruise, she kinda got together with a little group of friends, and so, like, being able to celebrate that for her, because I know that that took huge courage on her part.
Mhm.
It'd been much easier for her just to stick with Brian and I
Mhm.
and do things solo. But so I guess celebrating those things that are hard.
yeah.
Yes.
That
Yes.
yes, the small wins, and it's so funny because if you know someone's story, it makes it that much greater, those celebrations. I love when you said that. It's like, because you said things that you can celebrate for all kids as they grow, high school graduation, this and that. You know their story and where they're coming from. So it makes those normal celebrations that much greater, that you want to just say, hey, we're going to celebrate you. And that is a blessing to
Yeah.
see where they've come. And so raising those kids into now young adults and seeing that transformation through their struggles, through where they've been, that is a huge blessing. How cool is that? Like,
Mhm.
that is.
Another thing that I want to point out is that, as with all kids in all families, the siblings did not always get along.
Mhm.
Um, that I would say that was probably the hardest part of our adoption journey, is trying to navigate 4 kids with different personalities. And, of course, you want them to love each other, but that doesn't always happen, even in families where they're all, birth siblings.
True.
So there was a lot to navigate there. So another thing that Brian and I have such joy in is that those kids now have their own texting group, and
Mhm.
they talk to each other more than we know and more than they tell us, which is totally fine. Um, but to be able to see them grow in their relationships and how important they are to each other and how much they call each other and rely on each other. Like, as a parent, you're like,
Mhm.
oh,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
It's so true.
So, but I guess I wanna encourage anyone who's listening that that was not without some really, really hard battles.
Mm.
Really hard battles. It
Mhm.
did not happen overnight.
Yeah.
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 No, thank you for sharing that, because it's like a true, like, your mommy heart just wants
Like,
your children to, like, be
mm.
best friends when they grow
Mhm.
up, really, truly, so,
Yeah,
yes.
well, I think that just speaks to the quiet work that is happening through those trials of that seasons or those years of battling that siblings can go through, not getting along, not seeing eye to eye. All of that is that quiet, consistent, stable love of a home, and that work that you and Brian are doing to continue to model what it means to be a family and the love that you have for each other. You need to it
Mhm,
it's the fruit of that. Their
mhm,
relationship now is the fruit of all of that y'all have put in over those years, even when it was terrible, even when you thought, like, "What in the world are we gonna do?" I love that you're like, "Listen, it's worth it." And not every story ends the same, is not what I'm saying, but there will be fruit if you are consistent and if you, um, lead with love and you let the Lord lead that too. So
mhm.
love that, love that. Well, I would love for you to share, because you gave a little encouraging advice there, but if you could give a little some encouragement to some adoptive parents of littles, maybe who are not like me, who are not yet in this phase of raising or parenting young adoptee teens or young adults, what encouragement could you give them right now?
Yeah, so, encouragement, I think something that has made all the difference for us is, that Brian and I were a team.
Mm,
And
Mhm,
so, as much as, whoever, whether it's husband and wife or whoever your support team is, as much as you can learn and grow together as that support team when things maybe are easy or seem easier, you're gonna fall back on that when things get hard.
mm,
yeah.
And, for Brian and I, and again, coming from an education background, like, for me, my answer to everything was always learning. Like, if I can just read a book, if I can go to a conference, if I can, soak up as much as I can, and Brian was more than willing to do all of that together. That made us, I think, stronger. It certainly, strengthened our marriage, but it also strengthened us for our kids to be able to be there. And then, I always laugh because you remember, like, when you first get pregnant, everybody gives you the "What to Expect When You're Expecting" book.
yes.
Um, and you read it while you're pregnant, and then it gets dust on the shelf because after you have a baby, whoever has time to, like, sit and read that thick book. I think the same is true with, parenting at different seasons of life, trying to learn as much as you can so that you have that when challenges come,
Mm.
I think is really important. And then, parent with grace. Um, these kids are trying to do the best that they know how with the skill set that they have, and their skill set may not be the skill set that you think that they should have, but it's the one that they do have. And so, we tried so many times to just like take a step back and be like, okay, why might this be their response? Why
Mm.
might this be how they're handling this situation? Um, and remembering that their journey may really impact how they are handling that moment, even though I don't understand it.
Yeah.
And so, really parenting with grace. And then my last word of advice is breathe before speaking, because
Yeah.
sometimes it is so tempting for the things to come out of your mouth that may be interpreted as hurtful. And so often, kids from hard places, anything that even borders on them feeling like it might be hurtful, they feel that. And so, walk away, take a breath, tap out before you create more harm with your
Yeah.
words.
Yeah, there's
Mhm.
power in the pause.
Yeah.
As I've heard and as I've said,
Yes.
there is power in
Yeah.
the pause. That is great advice, for all parents. Have grace. I mean, like, parent with grace. Um,
Mhm.
but gosh, that is so true, though. I mean, I'm sitting here just really soaking up everything you're saying because their skill set and what they have may not be what you want it to be, but it is what it is. It is what they have. And so instead of being frustrated and almost beating them up about the skill set they have, give them grace, breathe before you speak, and
Mhm.
just parent them where they're at. I think that
Mhm.
is such great advice, Jen.
And I like as an adoptive mom to myself, like I also want to say to other adoptive moms, and I'm sure you'd say this too, Jen, but like parent your children with grace, like grace for them, but also like have grace for yourself and for your
Well
husband.
said.
And like we all have like those moments where we didn't pause or, it didn't come out like we thought it would, or you did the
Mhm.
right thing and it still didn't go the right way. And you're like, what else could I have done? And I mean, I've laid awake at night, just thinking over things in my brain of like, "Oh, I must be a terrible mom." Um,
Ugh,
and
so
it's
true.
not true, but you still have I think we all as parents have those voices and you have to like give yourself grace and like
Yeah.
say, I'm just human too and I'm not going to be the perfect parent, but God is like the perfect father and he's going to fill these gaps. And so,
Yeah. Yeah.
trusting in his grace for us.
And I'll be completely honest because, maybe somebody needs to hear this. There was a time where like I was struggling as a mom. I mean, raising 3 teens, young adults, I mean, so there's 3 of them within 4 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And I had to make the decision to get some counseling support for myself because
Yeah.
I was drained. There was not enough left of me to go around,
Mhm.
and that was really humbling. Like, I'm usually the one that
Mhm.
that loves to help others, but to be able to get to the point to say, I I'm not my best self right now. I'm not the best mom that I could be. I'm not the best wife that I could be. Um, I need different support,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
that was hard.
Yeah.
Mm, that is so good. If anybody's hearing that, hopefully gives you permission to seek that help as well if you're feeling in
Yeah.
that drowning place. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Well, Jen, thank you so much for being so open, so honest, and thank you to your kids for allowing you to share their stories. It's so impactful, so powerful. This is the first time we've had a conversation about this on our podcast, about this season, parenting kids in this phase. So I know our listeners, our viewers are going to love this. So thank you so much for coming and joining us and talking about this.
Absolutely. It's something that I'm super passionate about, as I see my kids growing and see some of the challenges that they face and the needs that they continue to have. Because so many times people think of adoption as infants or toddlers, and
Right.
and like we talk about with Funding Love, that once the finalization is over, things are just happily ever after.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's a lot of work, and we a parent never ends.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's true.
Right. So true.
Yeah.
Well, we like to end every episode with a fun little question because this is the Funding Love podcast. So we want to ask you, Jen, what are you loving in this season, this place you are, whatever it is, a book, a meal, a beverage, a movie? I don't know. What is it that Jen is loving right now?
Oh, this is the easiest question to answer.
Oh, good.
So being from central Wisconsin, everyone knows our winters are not great, but our summers are perfect. And
Oh,
so
yay.
I am loving summer in Wisconsin. The weather is beautiful. We happen to be blessed. We live very close to a lake and have a pontoon boat. So I am loving floating on the water, being outside, and just taking time to relax and regroup. And I love my summers here.
Love it.
That's awesome. I love
As a
it.
native Michigander,
Yes.
I agree that the summers is what you live for. It's the only thing that gets you through the gray of the winter is the locusts, that nice noise at night, the fire, the bonfires, the lakes, the pontoons. That's like dreamy. Yeah.
Yes.
I know.
We have
Yeah.
a little bridge over our lake that we drive over every day, and in the winter it is frozen solid.
Ugh.
And
Wow.
I think, oh, it'll come, it'll come. And then when we actually get to be out on the boat, it's like, oh yes, we made it.
We
I
made
love it.
Oh,
I
that
love
is so great.
And me and Caitlin here in Florida, it's like the opposite.
It's
like the winters are
melting.
the perfect.
Yes, we are melting.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah, you have to come up with indoor activities. You feel like you're in Florida. It's so beautiful and the sky is blue. You look outside. And you're like, I ain't going out there. It's like melting. So I love that you're enjoying that. That is so great. And anybody from the north is probably saying amen right now.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I love it. Well, just want to say again, thank you, Jen, for being on the podcast. And thank you, listeners and viewers, for tuning into this episode of the Funding Love Adoption Podcast with Mal and Kate. We'll see y'all next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Funding Love podcast. Funding Love is a crowd-funded nonprofit, which means that people like you can make a lasting impact in the adoption community through your financial support. To make a donation, shop our merchandise, find ways to volunteer, and learn more about our upcoming events, visit our website at fundinglove.com today. No matter how you choose to partner with us, you are Funding Love.